Back in 2021, I was a broke graduate student trying to stretch a part-time income far enough to survive another semester. When you don't have money, you don't have options. You take whatever living situation you can get. My price limit for rent was embarrassingly low. I searched for weeks before I finally found something. A listing on a local student board for a room in the Appalachian foothills. The pictures were vague, only two, the outside of the house and a picture of a bedroom with a mattress on the floor. The rent was $150 a month. That I messaged the poster. 10 minutes later, I got a response. We arranged a time to meet. The place was deep in the foothills. My phone kept recalculating the route, spinning the map in circles until finally, a gravel turnout appeared between two dark pines. 3 stories, built sometime between 1890 and haunted. The paint might have been white once, but weather and time had chewed it into bruised, peeling strips. There were no curtains, just black glass windows. But then the front door opened, and someone stepped onto the porch, a young guy, my age or slightly older, pale, thin, wearing a loose gray sweatshirt and jeans. He raised a hand and smiled too widely. "You must be the new roommate," he called out. I cut the engine and forced myself to smile. "Yeah, I'm here to check out the room." "Cool. I'm Donnie." A moment later, when we shook hands, he corrected me. "It's Donnie, not Devin." Never call me Devin. I hadn't even said Devin. He brought it up on his own. Inside, the house smelled like lemon cleaner and old wood. Not dirty, just unused. The furniture was sparse, one sagging couch, a chipped coffee table, and a lamp without a lampshade. He walked me through the place. "Bathrooms here. Kitchen's here. You can use the dishes, but only the white ones. Don't open cabinets on the bottom row." And then, at the end of the hallway, a locked wooden door with an old, rusted bolt. He stopped, put his hand flat against the door. "This is the in-basement," he said. "You don't go in there." I nodded. "Got it." He didn't move. "You don't go into the basement." I said, "I understand," he repeated, slower. "Never go in the basement." He wasn't threatening me. He sounded afraid. I moved in that evening. My room was upstairs, small but fine. A mattress on a metal frame, a narrow desk, a window that looked out toward the woods. There was no lock on the door, but I assumed that was just because the house was old. I went to sleep around midnight. Sometime after 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of footsteps, inside my room. Slow, measured, like someone was trying not to wake me, I stayed absolutely still. My breathing went shallow. I kept my eyes closed just enough to sliver vision through my eyelashes, and I saw him standing at the foot of my bed watching me sleep. Wasn't touching anything. He wasn't moving. He was just there. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but he suddenly turned and slipped out the door, closing it with a soft click. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I found him in the kitchen stirring instant oatmeal in a cracked bowl, one of the white ones. "Oh, hey," he said, cheerful like nothing weird had happened. "How'd you sleep?" "I think someone was in my room." He froze mid-stir. "Oh?" "Yes, I woke up and there was someone standing at the end of my bed." He gave a short, nervous laugh. He placed the spoon down carefully. "Well, if you follow the house rules," he said, "there won't be any problems." And he smiled. For the next week, Donnie acted normal during the day, polite, quiet, kept to himself. Sometimes he whispered things too soft for me to understand. Sometimes I'd find something small moved. The chair in my room shifted an inch. I started sleeping with my backpack zipped shut and my wallet in my pillowcase. I never saw him in my room again, but I felt him. I thought about leaving, but I kept telling myself it was temporary. I just needed to make it to the end of the semester. One night, around 2:30 a.m. when I woke, up to a noise, a sneeze not from the hallway, but from meter beneath my bed. My blood iced. That tiny noise, that stupid sneeze, was somehow more horrifying than anything else because it was normal, casual, like whoever was under. My bed wasn't hiding. Every muscle in my body turned stone solid. Slowly slid my hand toward my phone beneath my pillow, using the screen's reflection to see the floor, And then, a pale hand curled around the bed frame, then half a face. Donnie, crawling from under my bed. He blinked up at me, eyes wide like I had caught him doing something embarrassing. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted. "I was just watching," he said softly. "Get out." He didn't stand, he crawled, spider-like, out the door and into the hallway, not walking. Crawling. I grabbed my backpack, my boots, my keys. I didn't care that it was 3 a.m. and freezing outside. I didn't care that it was a 40-minute drive back to campus. I left. 3 days later, I got a text. "Where did you go?" "Donnie." I blocked the number. He made a new one. "You left your last month's rent. You owe me." Then an email. "You agreed to the house rules. Basement included. You broke the rules. Pay me or I come find you." "Donnie," I replied with one sentence. "If you try coming near me and I will go to the police." Later, I never heard from him again. A month later, a student in one of my classes handed me a folded newspaper. "You live near here, right?" she asked casually. "Thought you'd want to see this." Man arrested, multiple backpacks and stolen items. Evidence found in basement. My pulse pounded. The article stated that authorities had found personal belongings, wallets, mobiles, all stored cared in the locked basement. A neighbor had called the sheriff because they kept seeing a man digging at night, behind the tree line, dragging trash bags into the woods, and the man arrested was Devin Donnie Harland, age 26, was a robber, the article said. Investigators report that Harland referred to the basement as his room and became violent when officers attempted to open it. I grew up in a tiny town in West Virginia, tucked into a fold of the Appalachian. My girlfriend, away Alice Keir, and I were 18, both living at home, both desperate for space and time that wasn't under the eyes of the entire population of our smothering little town. We weren't doing anything wrong, but in a place like that, even holding hands in public could turn into a rumor before sundown, so we found a secret, a place out in the woods. About 30 minutes from town. You take a gravel road until the gravel gave up and melted into dirt. After a half-mile past that, the road split into 2 tire ruts barely wide enough for a car. The woods swallowed everything else. No reason for anyone to be there. We called it our spot. We told our parents exactly the kind of lie West Virginia teenagers tell. "I'm crashing at a party." "Don't wait up." Alice smuggled her overnight bag down her. We laughed the whole drive out. We set up the tent on a soft patch of ground. Alice tossed sleeping bags inside while I tried and failed to get a lantern to work. "You sure this thing isn't possessed?" I muttered, "Possessed by batteries." She deadpanned and slapped the bottom. We lay back eventually, looking up through the mesh ceiling of the tent. The stars in that spot felt closer than anywhere else I'd ever seen. It was stupidly perfect. We kissed. We tangled ourselves into the sleeping bags. Then, a sound cut through the stillness. A low, steady hiss. I froze. Alice froze. We both tilted our heads toward the sound, listening so hard my ears started to ring. Nothing. Silence swallowed the woods. We laughed it off eventually. Kissed again. Tried to fall back into that moment. But then, Alice's body tensed against mine. She sniffed the air once. Twice. "Do you smell that?" I inhaled. I didn't notice anything. Then the scent hit. Sharp, acrid, artificial. Cigarette smoke. Cold dread slid down my spine, pooling in my gut. Out here, miles from any houses, no campsites, nothing. Someone was smoking? "Alice," I whispered, "no one else comes out here. We're not alone. If you've never been in deep woods when the bugs stop, it's hard to explain. It's like the forest itself holds its breath. Then, click. A lighter flicked open. The sound was crisp in the still air, as clear as if it were inches from our ears. I'm pretty sure my heart forgot how to beat. Alice mouthed one word. "Run toward the car?" I nodded. She reached for her phone. I grabbed my car keys. Our movements were painfully slow, trying not to make any noise. The zipper of the tent felt like the loudest sound. We burst through the tent flap and bolted toward the car. The world blurred around me as pure survival instinct took over. Alice yanked open the passenger door. I slid into the driver's seat, jammed the key into the ignition, twisted. Nothing. Not a click, not a cough, just dead silence. No, no, no. I slammed the steering wheel. Come on, Alice's voice with panic. Why isn't it starting? Then I saw him, standing beside the tent we'd just fled from, just him standing there. Watching. He wore a long, dirty jacket, jeans soaked dark like he'd been walking through mud. When he exhaled, the smoke rolled out slow, deliberate, like he was tasting our fear. He lifted 2 fingers in a lazy wave, like we were old friends. Alice whispered, terrified, oh God, what do we do? I twisted the key again. Nothing happened. I twisted harder. The man took 1 step forward. Another. Alice, I said, get your phone out. Call. My stomach dropped into the floor. Alice reached into her bag with shaking hands. I have pepper spray, she whispered. She cracked her door open. Wait. I grabbed her wrist. We should think. I'm done thinking. She stepped out. The man stopped walking and tilted his head. Now why you leaving the car? Come on out, sweetheart. He took another drag of his cigarette. Alice raised the pepper spray. He grinned wider. Aw, you gonna? Shh. Alice didn't hesitate and she kicked him right between the legs. Hard. He dropped to his knees with a choking cough. I snapped out of shock, flung my door open and ran to Alice. I kicked him in the jaw, hoping he'd stay down, but he didn't. The man rolled, coughing, pawing blindly at the ground. His face was red and wet with tears and snot and pepper spray. Then I saw something in his hand. Knife. He swung wildly. Snarling, I'll kill you. The blade sliced the air inches from my stomach. Run, Alice screamed. She lunged toward the car trunk, flipping it open. She grabbed the first thing her hand landed on, a small fire extinguisher. I kept there from a failed attempt at being a prepared adult. She gripped it with both hands, and with a primal, terrified scream, crack! The metal slammed against his skull. He made a sick wet sound, collapsing to the dirt. His body twitched once, then stilled. Blood pooled under his head. For 1 horrifying second, I thought she'd killed him. Alice's breath rasped. I whispered, we need to go. We abandoned everything. We ran into the woods. My heartbeat pounded in my ears louder than the cicadas ever had. We didn't stop until we reached a logging access road 2 hills over. I fumbled for my phone, 1 bar of service. Alice grabbed it from me and dialed 911. Between sobs, she told the dispatcher. He tried to get into the tent. He broke the car. He had a knife. We hit him. We ran. Please, it took tonight 2 minutes for the nearest sheriff's unit to reach us. When they arrived, we led them back to the clearing. The tent, the scattered bags, the sleeping bags. Alice's backpack still ripped half open. But the man, constantly a dark smear of blood on the dirt remained. The deputy knelt beside it, touching the dirt with his gloved hand. Looks fresh, he muttered. Alice clung to me, shaking uncontrollably. Check my goddamn car. They popped the hood. A wire had been cut. Clean, deliberate. The deputy's face drained of color. They took our statements, filed the report, promised to update us, but we never heard a single word afterward. No follow-up call. It's been 3 years. I've always thought of summer as a time to escape. My friend Cole, Maya, and I had made it a tradition. Our own little pilgrimage into the wilderness 3 years ago. We decided to push that tradition further. Somewhere that didn't have other people or civilization breathing down our necks. That's how we ended up in a cabin deep in the mountains of Colorado. Cole had mentioned it first during one of our long, aimless conversations at his work. A colleague of his had a family cabin far off the beaten path, near a range of old jagged peaks that the locals like to call the Colorado Appalachians because of their dense forests and winding trails. The rent was cheap, ridiculously cheap, but isolated enough that we would have our peace. The idea of hiking during the day and retreating to a quiet cabin at night sounded perfect. We loaded the car for the 3-day drive. We were in our mid-30s, adventurous but not stupid. The drive itself was long but scenic. The cabin was beautiful, sturdy timber walls, a stone chimney, and a small porch overlooking the forest. Our first night was quiet, almost too quiet. We were tired from the drive and the thought of hiking the next day. We cooked a simple dinner and let Maya start the first movie. There was laughter while we were watching movie. We heard something, a faint whistling. It was soft at first, easily dismissible, and for a moment I wondered if it was just part of the movie. But it wasn't. I said nothing. My friend Cole shrugged it off. Maya didn't comment. I tried to shake it off and went to the bathroom to brush my teeth. That's when I saw a shadow at the edge of the forest, standing completely still. Then it moved slightly. The mouth opened. My stomach dropped. I froze, unable to breathe, unable to move. I slammed the bathroom window shut and ran back to where Cole and Maya were sitting. "Someone's out there, watching us," I shouted, my voice trembling. They didn't see it at first. Then the whistling started again. This time clearly outside the cabin. Cole grabbed the nearest kitchen knife and Maya her hiking axe. We barricaded the doors, double-checking every lock, every latch. The thought that someone had followed us here, to this remote stretch of forest, seemed impossible. And yet every rational part of my mind screamed that it was happening. We called the police. It was embarrassing at first, explaining to someone miles away that no, we weren't overreacting. Yes, we were serious. Yes, someone was standing outside our cabin in the middle of the night. They told us no one could get there until daylight. The isolation we'd sought so desperately was now our prison. The night stretched endlessly. We stayed in the living room, armed and alert, taking turns peeking out the windows. Dawn never came fast enough. When the police finally arrived, the sight outside the cabin confirmed our fear. The dirt around the cabin was disturbed, scratched as if someone had been digging, searching. The door bore deep claw marks, angry and desperate. Someone had tried to get in. We were shaken but determined not to let it ruin our trip. So we searched for another cabin further away, miles deeper into the wilderness. We found one eventually, smaller, tucked into a valley behind a ridge, and decided to give it a try. The next day was beautiful. I almost believed the nightmare was behind us. We hiked, swam in a cold creek, and even laughed again. That night, as I lay in bed trying to convince myself I was safe, I heard it again. A bump against my bedroom window, soft at first, then harder. I got up, pulling back the curtains. Nothing. I grabbed my phone, flashlight in hand, and shone it on the forest outside. And then I saw fresh footprints leading directly from the edge of the trees to my window. I followed them with the light, my pulse hammering, until I saw him. A man standing there, unmoving, just watching. 15 yards away, yet somehow closer, as if he had always been there, always waiting. His presence froze me. I wanted to scream, but my voice died in my throat. Maya came to the doorway, her face pale. I signaled her to be quiet, pointing the flashlight toward the man. Cole woke up at her whisper. Panic set in. We packed everything we could in 5 minutes, hearts hammering, adrenaline slicing through our veins. When we opened the cabin door, I swore I saw him again, this time beside the house. Staring as we ran to the car, I started the engine and reversed down the dirt path, glancing in the rearview mirror. We left the mountains immediately, cutting the trip short. Back home, the police listened and acted quickly. The second cabin owner confirmed deep scratches on every door and window, just like the first. Whoever it was, they had followed us. I will never go back to those mountains, though sometimes I wonder what he wanted, why he watched, why he followed. Some questions, I think, are better left unanswered. I haven't told this story in 10 years, not because I didn't want to, but because it's one of those things that keeps replaying in your mind, even when you try to bury it. Even now, I wake up in the middle of the night. It all started on a clear fall afternoon. I was in my early 20s. My friends and I had been driving up to the Smoky Mountains for years, chasing the kind of freedom you can't find in cities. Hiking, camping, exploring, anything to get out and vanish into the forest for a weekend. That day, we decided to take a trail none of us had tried before. It was faint, more a path made by deer than humans, winding between towering pines and maples. Hours into the hike, the undergrowth suddenly opened into a clearing. And there it was, a massive wooden cabin, hidden from the trail by a thick wall of poplar and pine. It was huge cabin I had ever seen, more like a lodge or a small mansion. The windows were pitch black, the shutters hanging loose, but the structure had not yet collapsed. Whoever built it had money, but it had clearly been abandoned for years. There was a strange stillness about it, a quiet that felt unnatural. I had that prickling sensation in my stomach. We circled the cabin, inspecting it. The front door, surprisingly, was unlocked. Inside, the furniture sat in place, coated with years of neglect. There were dishes on a table, dusty magazines stacked neatly, and beds unmade as if someone had simply walked away. It was eerie, but not destroyed, not trashed, just abandoned. Someone suggested we camp there instead of setting up tents outside. It made sense at first, shelter, protection from the chill, but looking back, it was stupid. Utterly stupid. None of us thought about safety, common sense, or the unknown. The decision was made, and we set up sleeping bags in the main room near the fireplace. The first hours were uneventful. We laughed, joked about the creepy nature of the cabin, and eventually drifted into sleep. That's when it happened. I woke suddenly, my body rigid with fear, but I couldn't immediately place why. The room was dark, quiet, except for the occasional groan of the old cabin settling. I strained my eyes, and then I saw him. A boy, pale, sickly, thin, like he had barely eaten in weeks. His skin was almost paper-like, his eyes impossibly wide, fixed straight on me. He didn't blink.
He didn't move, he just
Stared. I froze. My chest constricted. Breathing became impossible. I wanted to scream, but the sound caught in my throat. And then slowly I managed to call out, to wake my friends. By the time I turned back, he was gone. Just gone. Nothing. I thought they would laugh, accuse me of dreaming, or joke that I was messing with them. But they didn't. They could see the panic etched into my face. I was shaking uncontrollably, barely able to form words. Once I explained what I had seen, there was an unspoken understanding. We needed to call the police. When the officers arrived, they searched the cabin meticulously. They combed the rooms, the clearing, the surrounding woods, and even the trail that led back down the ridge. They found nothing. No signs of a child, nothing. They asked me over and over if I was sure. I nodded every time. I knew what I had seen. The boy had been there. Standing so close I could have reached out and touched him. The police offered explanations, nightmares, exhaustion, the stress of the hike. Even my friends leaned toward thinking I had dreamed it. I've gone back in my memory countless times, trying to reconstruct every detail of that night. The way the cabin smelled. The boy, his impossibly pale skin, the hollow darkness under his eyes, the intensity of his stare. It's burned into me. I've tried to tell people. Most think I'm exaggerating, or that I suffered a panic attack or a vivid nightmare, and maybe part of me wants to believe that. But deep down, I know the truth. I wasn't dreaming. It's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't felt it. It's worse than fear. Fear ends. This is vigilance on a scale you can't escape.